But I do see that fine arts is a language, and that is how primarily my understanding started to have about a subject called fine arts. And when I say art is a language, then we might also want to understand that why language is necessary. And eventually we'll come up with answer that language is necessary to communicate. And to communicate to whom, or what is the larger purpose of it. Fine arts being one of the subject that can do very effectively in liberal arts, because fine arts has all those effective methodologies that will push the student to go out of their comfort zone first, be and also become more fearless in their approach to problem solution.
Hello, sir. I would like to start by thanking you for the wonderful session and the workshop. So my first question for you is, would you give us a visual teaser of your journey from the India's finest art schools to IIT Delhi?
Thank you for having me in this podcast. Well, my journey started with my graduation, where I enrolled in this beautiful college, which is also one of the oldest art schools in India, which is called as Government College of Art and Craft, Calcutta, and it's situated in almost in the heart of the city of Calcutta, which is a place called Park Street. And since it was built in around 1854, so it has seen a lot of colonial kind of development. We had those kind of curriculums and teachers, professors who came from this European context, and they taught us different kind of subjects, including their mythology and their art history and all, so and so forth. But eventually what happened is, like, once I graduated from there, I would like to mention that art schools did had all these different branches. For example, I graduated as a graphic designer, so I studied graphic design, which is a 4 years bachelor's course. And after that, it took me to MSU Baroda, where I completed my master's in illustration. And once I completed my master's in illustration, my thesis was mostly in a topic called the evolution of graphic novels in India, and that led me as a more of a serious, seeking for academic understanding of graphic novels and comic culture. And eventually, after completing my PhD from IIT Guwahati, I've been teaching in different design schools, including National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, and for the almost last 6 years now, I'm working in IIT Delhi, which is a department of design, which houses different kind of subjects like communication design, industrial design, interaction, and design research. Also seeing my journey back to my art school days to now a heavily technical and technology oriented college, I do see very little things have changed when it comes to especially fundamentals. The art school fundamentals that they have taught us in the foundation, that still holds true in the IIT system also. It's just that the subjects might be little different, but I still find the kind of foundational subjects and learning are still relevant in today's time. Yeah.
Thank you. I would appreciate it if you could enlighten us as to why fine arts is fundamentally important in design.
Well, to understand this, and me being as a design educator in a system like IIT and also other design schools where I have taught, I do see that fine arts is a language, and that is how primarily my understanding started to have about a subject called fine arts. And when I say art is a language, then we might also want to understand that why language is necessary. And eventually we'll come up with answer that language is necessary to communicate. And to communicate to whom, or what is the larger purpose of it. Then we start decoding this series of answers that language provides us. Now, even if we start decoding that why language manifests in different kind of formats, for example, language can be seen as a verbal expression, as a written expression, it can be sign language. Similarly, in the art domain, what we have seen is a term called visual language. So, the world of art uses the language of visuals to communicate to an audience. So, fine arts and design share a lot of commonalities, which I have seen. To give you a context, that if in Indian context, the foundational design schools started coming 1960s, 1970s, 1980s onwards, but the art schools in India are much older history, which included all these foundational subjects. As I mentioned, Government College of Art and Craft, Calcutta was somewhere around 1854. So that's, we are talking more than 150 and more years of history of art schools. And also, if we try to see more commonalities, as an educator, I have taught in foundational batches where we talk about, let's say, subjects like design fundamentals, which might also take a student to different kind of interactions of design elements, design principles, color theory, compositional rules. But these are also very common in fine art subjects, which are the foundational base building of fine arts colleges. It's just that the tweaking happened mostly post-modernistic era, and after the most internet and TV kind of penetration in pop culture, that the concept of design had caught up. And mostly because industrialization and mass production required that kind of understanding of production of artifacts. So design had taken that role very effectively, I would say. But at the same time, the foundational building blocks are still overlapping with fine arts. But what I'm giving is a history of maybe roughly 150 plus years history in art schools in India. But if you go to or try to understand the world or Western history of art, it's much beyond 500 plus years of understanding. So, for instance, if there are some observational drawings in the Renaissance time period, or maybe something like the Aboriginal art practices of the Australian communities, those are very much transpired into design practices. We might term them in a very different concepts or terminologies, but they are there.
So do you consider fine arts as an important component to liberal arts education?
Well, that's an interesting take on fine arts, and I do see the value of this question, especially in the very recent newspapers I was going through, that there is a very striking interest in revival of liberal arts, or even more crucial subjects like humanities and social sciences. I think across the world, it has been a challenge post-COVID to retain the engagement and interest level of the younger generation, especially when it comes to learning. From my own personal experiences, when I talked with educators, they have come up with this often very challenging situations where the students are just unable to think critically. Now, this concept of critical thinking itself is a beautiful concept, and that will lead us to understand why the human brains evolved at first place. Is it just to solve very simple level of like problems, or is it also capable of complex level of problem solving approach? In that terms, I really think that fine arts can build that kind of radicalization in terms of critical thinking that the students really need today's time. I can point out a couple of parameters that why fine arts and liberal arts kind of integrates very seamlessly. Most effectively, that the term itself liberal and the term itself fine arts, they have a lot of value in itself. So if we go from a definitional aspect, liberalization is something that all of us do look up to, and it's a crucial component of we being a human being. So how important it then becomes for a learner to become liberal thinker. So that is one of the core idea of liberal education, and how it can use different domains to generate or provoke this idea of liberalization among the students. Fine arts being one of the subject that can do very effectively in liberal arts, because fine arts has all those effective methodologies that will push the student to go out of their comfort zone first, and also become more fearless in their approach to problem solution kind of approach. Because otherwise what is happening is post-COVID we are encountering a generation who are very much isolated, because of course the prominent reason being the interaction of digital surfaces. But what is also happening is the moment that they are interacting with social communities, they find very challenging situation to even interact and navigate through those things. In this context, I think to build a very holistic kind of understanding of a human being or learner, fine arts kind of subject does introduce them with a lot of this radical idea. I think the baseline of having a fine arts in a liberal arts is also to create a more free-spirited learner who, without any kind of bias and boundary, can learn from different kind of subjects and hence maybe evolve their understanding to become a better part of the society. That's how I see both as a very integrating part of any kind of university system.
That was really insightful. For the closing question, I would like to ask, where do you see the fine arts field in the coming decade or two?
Well, it's kind of mostly we need to also see that how a prediction or a forecasting happens, and it's mostly built on what the historical references or the precedents are giving us. So historically, if you see that the modes of transition of expressions are changing. So especially if I go back to the core examples of like cave art paintings, where the humans expressed in the cave through bare minimum essential tools, but now we have AI generated robots who are creating paintings, and they are getting sold in auctions in different kind of galleries situation. So what are we witnessing right now is the agency of human is being kind of also being challenged, but also being accompanied through this thing called technology. I very much am aware of the situation that the creatives are right now going through, especially with the development of AI kind of innovation that is happening. But what I see that when I again look at the 100 or 150 years back history, the moment camera came, there was also similar kind of apprehension among, let's say, portrait artist, that has the camera replace the portrait artist. To a larger extent, if you see that discourse is still there, but portrait artists are still there. They're still doing their work. If you move to few years down the history, then the development of computer or even things like digital softwares that can make more efficient work pipeline. So more or less seamlessly they have integrated in the creative aspect. So I do see that the fine arts will embrace a lot of these technological aspect, and the human mind is going to become much more creative and innovative, because the moment we start understanding this technology as a tool for efficiency, then we know that as a human we are the maker of these things, and if we can control it in an ethical sense, then I think very beautiful examples can come up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.